Another hard day to catch the breakaway, a theme of this year's edition of the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. This was stage 6 from Albi to Blagnac, the last chance for the sprinters to win a stage, and it was easier than the preceding stages. Only short Category 4 climbs, the last one far from the finish, and with Vibers out, DSM had a really good opportunity here to win a World Tour, and a very prestigious one at that, sprint stage with Charlotte Kool. Because, yeah, it hadn't been great for SD Worx. Danny Stam, their director, got excluded from the race in the morning, and Skalniak-Soika for Canyon SRAM was in the breakaway ahead. Norsgaard on Movistar was chasing, so Movistar obviously not chasing the peloton behind, as well as Alonso for Sarah Tizet. So Norsgaard, she's been a decent classic sprinter before, but realistically not beating Kool in this finish, who's on DSM Firmenich, and that's why they're chasing with the gap at 2:26 to Skalniak-Soika, who's a good time trial rider and just a strong rider all around the pole, already showing to be a valuable member of the Canyon SRAM team. But they make the bridge back across to her. The gap's 2 minutes. How are they going to manage this breakaway? Because DSM don't want to go too hard on the climbs. Jumbo-Visma can probably go a little bit harder because Vos is a better climber than Charlotte Kool, and other teams like FDJ just want to cause chaos and attacks. So Labou's marking this move, and then Movistar also trying to close it down to block for Norsgaard ahead. And then Spratt goes, and SD Worx with Royce are like, you're not going anywhere. But all of this has basically made this climb a lot harder. Also, the QOM points, they all got gold up by the breakaway. So Castelline couldn't take any. So that's all to play for in tomorrow's Queen stage. But looking back at the peloton, Charlotte Kool wasn't there. She was dropped on that climb with 60 k's to go. So even though the gap down to the breakaway was down to 45 seconds, with UAE now pacing for Consoni, who made it over that climb in the peloton, the main sprinter for the day and the main team who'd been working to manage the breakaway is off the back, chasing back with Charlotte Kool. So that gap actually went all the way back out again. And then there's a crash with Ewers into that ditch, as well as Castelline and Van der Velde, I think, crashed at QOM, the Mayapois. And so that also seemed maybe not related, but it also eased up with UAE pacing, and the gap exploded again with riders going back to get bidons, refreshments, and DSM, who've just spent like nearly half an hour chasing. They got to get back to the front. They got to start pacing again. We've still got another climb to come. And so Alonso, Norsgaard, Skalniak-Soika, as I said, a really strong trio to try and manage in a breakaway, particularly when they can go up the climbs quicker than Charlotte Kool. And yeah, DSM, now they got a battle. 1:51, 2 minutes is where it peaked at, and it actually looked good for a while. Down to 1 minute with 25 k's to go and mostly flat into the finish. You'd think with Jumbo, DSM, UAE, even a bit of SD Worx for Kopecky wanting a sprint, that could be managed, but they were really strong in the break. Alonso was tiring though, so how long could she hang on for? They held that gap stable for about 10 kilometers, and this pressure from the peloton actually helped Norsgaard a lot because the others couldn't attack her, they couldn't sit on her, even though she was the favourite from this group in the finish. And DSM come back to the front, 50 seconds, 12 k's to go, 22 seconds with 6.6 k's to go. That means they're technically on track with Alonso dropping, but they're also dropping in the peloton too. Jumbo-Visma running out of steam, UAE only with one rider, DSM nowhere at this point, and so with Alonso gone and Norsgaard powering away, it even goes up 5 seconds if the gaps are to be believed, with I think Cecchini helping for SD Worx and Kopecky's sprint. So Norsgaard with this gap decides to play a very dangerous game with about 1,400 meters to go for a K or so through this right to left chicane over some tram tracks, which would cause havoc behind. She decides to stop pulling and lean on Skalniak-Soika, which is a risky move if they got caught. And then maybe she got lucky that there was a crash behind, which took some of the impetus out of the group, perhaps, and Van Vleuten was caught up, but I think the 3 kilometer rule meant everyone was put on the same time. And here, Vos lets the wheel of Henderson go because she sees that there's no domestique for Kopecky. Kopecky doesn't close it. And this is really how Norsgaard ends up winning this stage, apart from being in the breakaway for like 65, 70 kilometers, is that Henderson, instead of pulling this group across to Skjelniak, Soika and Norsgaard, who's just attacked the pole on that little uphill rise and is probably now sprinting and holding Henderson at the same gap. UAE basically have to close down Henderson, and then there's no one left to do the lead out. And so that's really how Norsgaard's able to stay away, of course, with perfect timing, taking a bit of a risk with 1,400 meters to go, and of course, being super strong and doing something differently, getting in the breakaway. She is able to hold off the peloton with Kopecky, Cor and Vos behind her, winning her first ever World Tour level race at this event. And yeah, Kopecky was super frustrated. I mean, would she have won if she didn't stop and give up? Because she sees Norsgaard cross the line. I don't think so. So I think Charlotte Cool's beating her anyway. And it's in fact Cool who Norsgaard denied today. So DSM, despite working hard, they'll be a bit upset, but of course SD Works wanted a bit more from the stage too. Norsgaard winning stage ahead of Cool, Kopecky, Vos, Paladin, Consoni, De Wilde, Guazzini, Skjelniak, Soika, unlucky not to get a podium stage result in the stage. But the big GC day tomorrow for Van Vleuten, Demi Vollering, and maybe Niewiadoma and co as well. Up Aspa, followed by the Tourmalet. Here's the GC standings after stage 5, because I think they all got jumbled up for stage 6. 12-second lead for Van Vleuten over Vollering. Probably both will be on the attack tomorrow. I can't wait for that recap. Make sure you book out time in your diary to watch it tomorrow. See you then. Ciao.